Hello everybody, welcome again to the channel. I wanted to talk this time about the accelerated growth of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now accelerated means something is moving faster than it was before. So accelerated growth, you would think, means that Jehovah's Witnesses are growing at a faster rate than they used to. Well, the 2016 yearbook helps us to look at the numbers and to compare the rate of growth now to what it used to be. So there's a couple of key statistics. The one that you want to look at is the number of average publishers. And the reason for this, I was a secretary at one point, and when you put in your field service report for the congregation to the branch, you list the number of people that turn in their time that month as individual publishers. So that means if someone hasn't turned in time for 3 or 4 months and they turn 3 or 4 months worth of time all at once, it counts as 3 or 4 publishers. So the number of peak publishers is actually a misleading number. The closer to correct number would be average publishers, because that averages out the peaks and valleys for when people do and don't report their time. So the number of average publishers went out by about 119,000 people, which is interesting because there were 260,000 people baptized. So that means that there's a difference of about 140,000 between the number of baptized people and the number of the increase. Now, I believe that Jehovah's Witnesses estimate that around 1% of their membership dies every year. So if you make that estimation for this year's figures, that means that 61,000 people left or were disfellowshipped. So their increase overall was 1.5%. Now, if you look at last year, they had 275,000 people baptized. So they had 15,000 more people baptized. And the difference between their increase in number baptized last year was 169,000. So, the increase was 169,000. So the difference between the number baptized and the number that, the increase was 106,000. And their increase for that year was 2.2%. So the growth in 2015 was slower than the growth in 2014. So that's not accelerated, unless accelerated to them means slowing down. And the year before that, their increase was 2.1%. If you go back a couple of years, the last time they had a growth of even 3% looks to be 2010. They had a growth of 3.2%. And to go back to a growth of 5%, you have to go back even further. The last time they had a growth of 5% was 1996. So we're not looking at a picture of the growth being accelerated, but we're looking at a picture of the growth slowing down. And you can look at the numbers of people baptized, and the last time they hit anywhere close to 300,000 was in 2007, where they had 298,000 people baptized. But their actual increase that year was 200,000. So there's a difference of 100,000 between the number baptized and the number that actually increased. Now, there's another very interesting figure to look at. They tout how many hours they preach, but the real measurement of effectivity for preaching is how many hours does it take per person baptized. So for the 2015 service year, it took 7,429 hours of preaching to get one person baptized. So if you're a regular publisher putting in 10 hours a month, which is roughly the average, I think, it would take you 61 point something years to get a person baptized by going on field service. So that shows you how incredibly futile the preaching work has become. Now, if you go back a couple of years, so last year, in 2014, it took 7,000 hours of preaching per baptism. 2013 took 6,640 hours of preaching per baptism. In 2012, it took 6,500 hours of preaching per baptism. To go back to where it was 3,000 hours of preaching per baptism, you would have to go back to the 1990s. So it now takes more than twice as long, 2.5 times as long as it did 25 years ago to get someone baptized. Another interesting statistic is the number of pioneers per baptism. So back in 2007, that number was 2.3. Since then, it's steadily been going up. And now it takes 4.4 pioneers per one person baptized. So if those 4.4 pioneers were all 100% successful, between the 4.4 of them, they would get one person baptized. If you do the same thing for publishers, going back to 2007, it took 22.4 publishers per baptism. Now in 2015, it takes 30.7 publishers per baptism. This is not a sign of acceleration, but rather it's a sign of decrease. Another thing that's going down is the number of branches. This is now down to 89, I believe, is the figure in the current yearbook, where it was around 2010, where the number of branches was 118. And the last yearbook from 2014, the figure was 92. So the number of branches is decreasing. So once again, this is not a sign of accelerated growth. Now keep in mind that the thing that the governing body is most concerned about is the preaching work and the growth of the organization. These brothers will all be intimately aware with the figures. So when they go on stage and say that the growth is accelerated, they are lying. They know that not to be the truth. They know the growth is slowing down. So they just once again are showing their dishonesty. And this information is out there for everybody to see. You can all get the yearbooks. You can download them right from jw.org, at least going back to 2000. And you can look at the numbers for yourself. And you can do your own calculations, figure your own things out. So how can you possibly trust men who prove themselves to be dishonest about the very nature of their own organization? And you couldn't make an argument that they couldn't know these figures, because that's the thing that they're most concerned with. So there you have it. The only thing that's accelerating for Jehovah's Witnesses is the slowdown in growth, not the growth. Anyways, thanks for watching.